Growing up in 1970s Britain, my guest and her family faced racism and even physical attacks, simply for being different. But rather than breaking her spirit, those challenges made her determined, resilient, and fiercely independent. From a young mother juggling work, studies, and raising 2 children to returning to university at the age of 30 and taking her final law exams just 6 weeks after a C-section. Her journey to becoming a solicitor is a true testament to grit and perseverance. Behind the scenes, life was even tougher, navigating an abusive marriage while giving legal advice to clients whose lives mirrored her own. When she finally found the courage to leave after 22 years and later married for love, she was met with disapproval and even estrangement from her parents. Yet through every obstacle, she built an award-winning law firm, championed access to justice, mentored future solicitors, and dedicated herself to charity work and helping the next generation thrive. And every single morning, through the darkest times and the brightest, she has played the glad game, finding at least one thing to be glad about, no matter what life throws her way. I'm so excited to hear about this glad game too. I'm honoured to welcome today my guest, Thushara Collins. Welcome.
Thank you. Quite an introduction.
Yeah, what a journey as well.
I know.
And we're about the same age, so I remember the 1970s.
Yes, we've talked about that a little bit, haven't we? Touched on that this morning.
That was a time
that
we'll probably never face again.
No, and I don't think that the younger generation now really understand what it was like to grow up in the 70s here, when you are, your parents have come from a very small island, Sri Lanka. My parents were very blessed. They were educated, so they had very good jobs. But nevertheless, raising us, in a very Western environment, when we've come from a very Eastern culture, is a big shock to the system, actually. So, facing racism at that point, I think has made me grow. I was very determined. As have my parents have been the same, so nothing ever stopped them, and I just have carried that on, really. So it's just, as you say, pure grit and determination. I wasn't going to let other people bring me down, so here we are today.
I know, and I remember in those days, like with my mum as well, my dad would always be at work, so I think she got the worst of it because she'd be out with us.
Yeah. So it was slightly different for me because my mum and dad both worked. I've probably grown up in quite a privileged sort of background, actually, where we had help at home, so my parents were able to work. But the work ethos that they had, that's absolutely come through, into certainly myself and my brother. We've never stopped working. So I don't think I've ever taken the easy way out. It's always been, no, I can do that. And of course, that's been very much championed by parents, actually. And I must say by my dad. He's not your stereotypical sort of Asian father who wanted me to get married and have children. Yes, he wanted all of those things, but a little bit worse than that, I suppose, because determined that I should be educated and just like mum and work and have children. Almost, dare I say, it's almost like a superwoman. And I sort of feel now, looking back, I don't need to be a superwoman, actually. I never needed to be that.
Yeah.
I'm just me.
But I guess it was the expectations.
Yes, it is. And they don't know any different.
And your determination.
Actually. Yes.
So C-section.
Oh, gosh,
And then 6 weeks later, you were doing your exams?
Yes, my final exams. Yes.
Wow.
So it's Dad is a doctor, Mum is a lawyer, right? That's the kind of battle that I had in my head and at home.
Yeah.
And initially it was science that won through because, my dad wants me to be a doctor and carry on, in his footsteps. Make life easy, actually, for me because he had his own practice. He was a GP.
Right.
So an established GP in Thurrock in Essex, where I grew up. And that sort of prevailed. Science is the way forward. And if you can take over my practice. So I did go to university and do science, but then I sort of had a little bit of an epiphany, I think, at 30, thinking, this isn't really what I want to do. I was in NHS management. I was looking after a whole load of GP practices, travelling around. I was already a mum. And then I thought, I can't do this actually anymore. I really want to do what I should have done to begin with. Didn't have the courage to say that out loud, at 18. I want to be a lawyer. That was what I wanted to do. So, yeah, I enrolled back at uni, but I had to carry on working because by this point I was married. I had a mortgage. I couldn't just abandon, my family because I was married very young. So, I studied. I worked really hard. I cannot tell you the nights, I was studying. And then
with a baby,
with a little toddler at the time. My son was 3. He just started nursery. And then by the end of the first year, I found out I was pregnant with my daughter. So what choice do I have? And I remember my lecturer saying, well, you're going in for this cesarean. It was an elective cesarean because I had some health issues. And, the exam is in January. Do you want to defer? And I said, no, absolutely no way. I am here. I want to finish this, what I've started. And I did do it. So 6 weeks later, all I remember is breastfeeding, reading my books, falling asleep, waking up again, and just going in and actually, to be honest, beating everybody else in my exams because I was so determined I was not going to let that put me off. So in between exams, the baby came along so I could feed her in between exams. So that was quite something. But, I did it and I had to. So I never regret that.
That's an incredible story. And people give up so easily these days, but goes to show 6 weeks later, after a C-section as well.
Yes, it wasn't the easiest thing. And probably looking back, would I do that again? Probably not.
You would. When you're there, you would. But now you think about it. I had 2 C-sections and I went back to work after 6 weeks after my first child.
Exactly.
And everyone was like, what are you doing?
Why
I was like, I need to go back to work though.
Exactly.
And you do what you have to do.
You do. And I don't regret that, I'm afraid. So when I'm advising, the younger generation of solicitors, I always say, look, I chose quite a difficult path actually. So if you're going to do something, do it now. Work the hardest you possibly can so that you're not in your 30s, I suppose, looking back and thinking, gosh, I should have done law when I was 18, but I did science. Forget about that. Work your hardest and then you won't regret it. So that's kind of how I've done things. So, you can empathise, right, with the cesarean. And
yes. My first one was an emergency. The second one was elective.
Same.
The second one was just so much easier. But it's an experience.
It is, yeah.
So then why did you start the business? You finished doing what you're doing with the NHS?
Yes, I finished doing what I was doing with the NHS, but I was working still while studying, qualified, and luckily managed to secure a training contract. So my vision all the time that I was studying was that one day I will be running a business. One day it will be me running that solicitor's firm. And I was very lucky, actually, that I was introduced to a sole practitioner, much like myself, gentleman, and he really was a gentleman, by a friend, actually. We were studying together, and he said, look, you need to get some work experience. So, please let's meet this guy. I know him. And I started going out to court and just totally free of charge, just to gain that exposure of going to court and seeing what advocacy was like. And I remember my first meeting with him when he was sort of talking about trading contracts, my principal. And he said, look, I really want to retire. And I said, perfect, because as long as you see me through your retirement, I want to take over. So it just happened that I was a partner in a larger firm. So I finished my training with him. He wanted to retire, but he absolutely honoured his commitment to me, which was, I will see you through your 3 years post-qualification so that you can set up by yourself, because I know that's what you want to do. So actually it was circumstance really that made me take that leap of faith in setting up the business. I knew that's what I wanted to do, but unfortunately things at home weren't so great. My ex-husband had a lot of mental health issues, and really it was self-preservation. I didn't want to rely on anybody, a man, a woman, parents. I needed to do something for myself so that I could secure my future without relying on anybody, and also to educate my children. So the children my son was already in little private school, and I knew, I was determined, well, you know what, somebody has to pay these school fees, and I couldn't rely on anybody else to do that. There have been moments when I have relied on my parents to bail me out, but for the most part, that was the purpose. Actually, was, I wanted to be a mother. I wanted to go on school trips. You know what that's like, right? You want to go on school trips. And my mum worked. She couldn't go on school trips. So those things sort of stick in your head. She's working, but I really like her to be on the coach going on this school trip.
Yeah.
So that's why I set up the business, was not just to fund their education, but to be around for them as well, so that I didn't have to justify why I was leaving, half an hour earlier, and the partners forgetting that I'd be the first person in, and maybe working weekends, never having to be asked, but always feeling guilty. Or you always feel as a mum, I think, that you're chasing your own tail. You're constantly feeling guilty. You're like a headless chicken. School runs, going to work, getting the telephone call. Your son is ill. Can you come and pick him up? No, I've got a client to see. What should I do?
So many hats to wear.
Exactly. So that's the purpose. That was the reason why I set up the business.
So when did you set that up?
So I set that up in 2011. So 14 years this year.
14 years, wow. So in your introduction, we talked about what was going on at home.
Yes.
So while you're setting this up, you were still married?
Yes, very much married. So I was married very young. I'm not going to say whether that's good or bad, because that was actually my choice to get married. But then I was a young mum as well, and still juggling, work and home and family life. But unfortunately, my ex-husband had very serious mental health issues, to the point where, gosh, he couldn't look at himself in the mirror and recognise that he was this very capable, intelligent, educated person with a very good job, but didn't recognise everything that we had achieved together, and could see no way out some days. And when you've done that and looked after somebody from the time you're 19 years old, you suddenly find that, what about my future? Am I really going to live like this, not knowing when the next breakdown is going to happen? At what point do we open this up with the children? And at that point, it was too late. The children were witnessing and seeing everything that was going on at home. And that's detrimental, not just to me, but also to the children.
Yeah.
So that was always in the back of my mind. It was self-preservation. I needed to be safe and secure, and nobody was listening.
Right.
Asian parents,
yes,
right? The expectation.
Just stay. It'll be okay.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
We don't get divorced. And unfortunately, my brother was divorced just before I was. So now this was like a double whammy. So, I've had the conversations, many conversations. They're seeing everything that's going on, but it's fine. Smile for the camera. You'll be fine. And it was awful, this pretense of being, I'm happy. I'm a happy person, but it's awful when you're sitting next to somebody who's not happy. And it's not that they're not happy with us. They're just not happy in themselves. And they're battling themselves. And it doesn't matter what you say, nothing will change their mind. No amount of therapy or counselling was doing anything. It's, you've got to work these things out for yourself with all the support, and the support was there. And that's really soul destroying. So for me, setting up the business, in a way, working, studying, it was a little bit of escapism as well. Now I'm looking back and thinking, actually, do you know what? Reading a book and, burying my head and not sort of seeing actually what's actually going on was good for me, really. So it's very hard, because now I'm battling culture, right? And, parents saying, you can't do, we can't have two children who are divorced. What will people say? You had a beautiful...
Of course, what will people say?
You had a beautiful wedding and there were hundreds of people there. And all I would say to my mum is, do you know what it's like to actually wake up next to somebody who's not happy? Not happy. Like, I'm the happiest person. Like, and that's why I started playing that Glad game.
So tell us about this Glad game.
So Glad game is it's a very old movie with an actress called Hayley Mills. So people of my generation will remember. It was a very, very old movie. But in this movie, she was orphaned as a child. And she went to live with her really loving auntie and uncle. But the way that she coped as a child, that coping mechanism of losing her parents, was to play the Glad game. So every day, and that was something that her parents had taught her, is every day you wake up in the morning and find one thing that you're actually glad about. It can be anything. So for me, it was drawing the curtains. Okay, great, I'm alive. That's good. But I started playing this with my children because remember they're watching what's going on, and it is very destructive when you're watching somebody else suffering in your what you believe to be a very happy family. So it's sort of interesting the way that my two children coped with that glad game. So my son would give it a lot of thought, and I would say, no, just wake up in the morning and tell me why you're happy today. Tell me something that makes you happy. So he would find something, about the weather or so what was going to happen today. And with my daughter, it was food. Today I get to eat pancakes in the morning, Mummy.
Oh, I love
so,
that.
it's little things.
Yeah.
But that's what kept us sort of united and smiling and happy because there was a lot going on. They were witnessing a lot. There was a lot going on. In a 6-year-old's head, they don't really understand what is going on. So when Daddy's going away to get help, Mummy's sending Daddy away. It's very hard to explain that, and even to this day, my daughter she's the younger, she's 23, she still says, but you sent Daddy away. No, I didn't send Daddy. I did not send Daddy away. But I'm not I'm not the doctor or the treatment or the therapy or the therapist. I didn't send him away. This is something that he needed to do. Yeah. So it's very hard, for the children. So the glad game was every day. Even now, play the glad game. There has to be something, even food, that makes people happy.
So you play every morning?
Every morning, every single morning.
What were you glad for today?
Glad for today is to actually wake up on time and not be looking so much at my emails this morning and actually spend a little bit of time putting the face on, just getting dressed and not thinking about work. Actually, today I was glad about that for a change. Yeah.
But you'll be doing it after this, I guess.
I'm going to switch off today.
You're having a day off?
I'm going to switch off today, yes.
Well done.
Yes, because you have to do that.
Yeah. But you've probably got a team who can look after it,
yes,
but we just have to check sometimes,
don't
we?
Yeah, of course. I mean, don't get me wrong. On the way here, is everything okay? But they're capable and they are getting on with things. And I'm sure if there's a problem, it's not going to be a catastrophe.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they'll check in on either myself or Mindy and find out what's going on.
Yeah.
So
I love that. So tell me, when you were setting this up, and obviously we're going through so much, you and your children.
Yeah.
Were you ever frightened of failure?
I'm not frightened of failure. I faced failure. So really, you have money one day, you lose it. You have your looks one day, you lose it. What's the problem, isn't it? That is part of a learning experience at the end of the day. So, failure. Other people would define failure as a failed marriage. But I actually don't see that as failure. That was the opportunity for me to actually take back my life and move on, because I didn't want to be defined by, oh, you're another one who's divorced in the family. That's not me. Darkest moments where, Mindy and I have faced failure is at one point in the business, let's say about 2017, I'm going to say because it was before Mindy had actually sort of joined the firm or joined the business to support me, because he hadn't really known what was going on, was that I was about 130,000 in debt. And nobody knew about that. It was something that I had to work out because the business wasn't doing very well. I had to take out a loan. It was unsecured because I didn't want to jeopardize the house that my children, were living in, and even we as a family, my ex-husband and I. So he was still living in that property. So I didn't want to jeopardize that. So that was probably the hardest moment. But am I frightened of failure? No, not really. Because I think that at the end of the day, you have to pick yourself back up again and keep going, whether it's for yourself, for your children, for, a husband or a wife. We're doing this, and moving forward. And at the end of the day, it's just an experience, isn't it? So I'm kind of ready. If something bad happens, then I'm afraid you've got to face it. And that's just me. I think that's just my personality. I'm probably very black and white for some people, but yeah, I think that's just me.
So if someone's listening right now and they're going through something difficult,
yes,
maybe something like what you've been through,
yes,
what would you say to them?
You have to be able to talk to people. Talk to your friends. I never spoke to anybody. My friends can see what's going on, but I'm not really opening up to them and really telling them the truth. They can see it. Of course, they don't want to interfere, right? Who wants to interfere in something that you're watching but can't really say anything or can't really help in any way? Go and get help. Talk to somebody. And if you find that your family are not supporting you, then you definitely have friends who will. They might not be able to support you financially, but definitely you have to talk to somebody. I mean, for example, in the line of divorce, obviously go and speak to a solicitor, isn't it? Find out what your options are, because there is a way out. And, that's what, like I say, that's what I'd seen in so many of my clients that I'd helped is, gosh, I'm watching my own life, like you said, mirroring theirs and wondering, why did I not go and get help sooner? I am a solicitor. Should I not have sort of listened to my own advice?
Yeah.
Just not listening to that advice or wanting to go and get help or just being honest. Maybe I felt guilty about putting that on other people, but I wasn't getting the help that I needed from my family. And that was very hard. So I would want people to get help, go and talk to somebody. It doesn't matter who that is, counsellor, therapist. Express yourself so that you're not internalizing all of these feelings actually, and then all of a sudden you explode, and you don't really want that. You've got to keep going. So please get help.
So you were hearing stories of other people going through similar situations to you, and you have to sit there and listen to it.
Yeah, it's very hard.
How did you even do that?
Oh, some days, honestly, I would walk out of the interview room after I'd seen the client and I'd be crying. So my staff, who probably knew what was going on, because obviously I'm seeing them pretty much every day, knew what was going on. And I think by that point I was opening up in the office, whereas I'd done this so many times before in my working life and not said anything to anybody and put the smile on, and been that sort of professional walking into an office. And it was hard, because, definitely when they're talking, I think I'll never forget one moment. I was sitting, it was outside office hours, and I was talking to a female client who had been working, and I said, look, come and see me in the evening, all right, because you can't come during working hours, no problem, half an hour, 45 minutes, let's do this chat after work. And we're sitting opposite each other, and all of a sudden this email pinged up on the screen, and the subject was so abusive from my ex-husband. And I stopped and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm just reading what this subject, and I said, I'm just going to share this with you just so that you understand you're not the only one going through this. And it was so horrible. The subject, the content in the subject was so nasty. I had to share it with somebody, and it was the client. And it's actually strange because that client's come full circle. She's seeing me now again, on lots of other matters, but she's walked back into the office after all those years. So, you do see similarities in people's lives actually with your own.
Yeah.
And I think that for that reason, I do understand when people walk in, sometimes when they start telling me their story, I can almost finish it for them. So, and they look at me, and I can see, and I can't say, oh my gosh, you need to, hear my story. But I can see in their eyes, they're sort of, well, how do you know that? And sometimes I laugh and I say, it's like we're married to the same person, isn't it?
That must make them feel better because it's showing empathy, or she really understands. Yeah, she's a solicitor, but she understands.
Yeah.
She gets it.
She gets it. Yeah. I wish I didn't, actually. I wish I didn't. But I do. So, yeah, I think
But don't clients then warm to you more? And
yeah, I mean,
because it's a scary process.
You know something, obviously we're talking from a woman's perspective, but then I've seen my brother going through this, getting divorced, and, children matters and things like that in the courts. So I'm also seeing it from a husband's point of view, from a man's point of view, and a father's point of view. So I like to think that, because it's horrible. It doesn't matter whether you're, any person going through a separation. Doesn't need to be divorced, as any kind of relationship breakup.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who it's with. it's so horrible when you've invested your entire life to this person.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think that, the penny drops with whoever I'm speaking to, actually, that there's a little part of our lives that is so similar, and yet we've probably come from very different backgrounds.
Yeah.
But we understand each other on that very human level. That's really important to me, actually. I wish I didn't have to understand those things, but I have.
So what was your final breaking point? When did you finally make that decision to leave?
I think it was just that realization that I just can't make this person happy. And it really doesn't matter whether there's money, beautiful home, cars, lifestyle, the perfect family. Well, I'm sorry, but I was beginning to doubt that. Then what do you mean by the perfect family? Like I said, on a simple level, if you wake up next to somebody and you're smiling because you're playing the glad game, but they just can't. They can't smile at you. And I've come from my parents have a very loving, happy, stable relationship. They're still very much like little lovebirds after nearly 60 years of marriage.
Oh, I love that.
And it's so beautiful to watch, but I'm not seeing that. That's what I want.
Yeah.
That is what I wanted. And I'm not getting that. So I can't do this anymore. I just can't see my future not knowing when this cloud was going to break out into some kind of storm. Just could not do that anymore. So that's not an easy decision to make. I'm mulling over it, talking to my parents, not getting the reaction or the support, not getting the support that I'd like to think I'd give to my children, which is, look, no matter what troubles you're facing, then please come back. Let's talk about it and let's see what we can do. And if we can't do anything, then you've got to make a decision, as difficult as that is. So, it's not an easy decision to make.
How many years were you married?
22.
Wow.
So it's not something I walked away from, right?
Yeah.
Which I should have done maybe, aged, like I say, 18 or 19 when we started a relationship at university together, and I can see all of the signs, but it's just not.
How old were you when you finally made the decision?
I was late 30s, sorry. Again, it's in our culture, isn't it? Sorry, who's going to want you now?
Yeah.
You've got 2 children.
Got baggage.
You've got baggage. Like, who's going to want
and
that?
You're divorced.
I mean, gosh, you've got
it's
this
like a dirty word.
Yeah, you've got like a tattoo on your head that says divorced. That's what I was told, and yet that's not what I worked with, right? For all those years, that's not what I saw in my clients, male or female. That's not what I saw in my clients. But they moved on, life moved on, and they had different relationships, and life was, up and down, happy sometimes, not so happy sometimes. So that was very hard because that's what I was being told, that I just wouldn't. That's it. Life is over. Life is over.
Divorced, yeah. If you get divorced, that's it.
Life is over.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to be invited anywhere. Right?
Yeah,
because
you can't go to functions.
You can't go to functions because you're divorced. So nobody's going to invite you to weddings, really, are they? Because, well, you're a divorce lawyer and you're divorced. And I've got this business, to run. And I can't walk away from the business, can I? Because that's what I've started, like I say, for self-preservation, to look after the children. So there was no escape, really. I had to just carry on.
Why did you become a divorce lawyer?
My first experience in the court, actually, was representing. I was there as a little clerk to a barrister, so I was sent off. Take notes, all right, for the barrister in this hearing, and it was a children matter. I'll never forget it. I won't say the client's name, but I still remember him, the name, and my barrister that we'd instructed was representing a father in children matters. And I remember coming out of that experience because I'd always wanted to do conveyancing. I wanted to get into property, do the legal side of things in terms of conveyancing. So family law hadn't really even dawned on me, but it was just that experience of going to court and, seeing the barrister representing the client and then seeing these emotions in court. It was a very heavy day in court. It was a long one-day hearing, actually. So it was probably at the end stage. If I'm not mistaken, probably was a final hearing at that time. And I remember going home and just being sort of mentally, that was a heavy day. But then I realised, but, I can do this. I can do this because, I've got experience of being a married mother who's working. So I'm seeing what's going on here. Why not give it a go? So the moment I got that opportunity to have a training contract in a small firm, I just jumped at that opportunity. And honestly, of the areas of law that my principal was practicing, he did an awful lot. He was a high street practitioner, but his focus was always family law. So the firm did family law, conveyancing, and wills, probate, sort of what we call some private client work, elderly client, if you want to say it that way. And that's what I did. So I trained in those 3 areas, and it was a lot because every day you're chopping and changing. 1 minute your family, but the family side is what I really wanted to specialise in. So even today we do the same things. We do the same 3 areas of law. But if anybody asks for the solicitor who specialises in family law, then it's me for sure. So it's just by accident, I suppose, that I...
Your face lights up when you say it.
Yeah,
so you're very passionate
I am
about
very passionate about it, yeah.
And it's from experience too.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
We go and see solicitors. When I got divorced, you see a solicitor and obviously they're doing everything they're supposed to do. There's a checklist.
Yes.
And sometimes you feel you can relate to them and you can really talk to them because you do want to talk to the solicitor.
Yes, you do.
But sometimes they're just very much tick box exercise. Okay, right, you'll get something in the post. You're off. They don't deal with your emotions. They don't relate to you. So I guess that's probably what makes you really different.
I hope so. I mean, I'd like to think that with our clients, regardless of what they're coming in to see us about or for advice, whatever they're doing, that actually it's a very long-standing relationship that we have with them. So if I say to you that lady who sat in front of me, let's say, 15 years ago, has come back on a different matter, that's the kind of relationship that as a firm that we're really, really proud of, actually, that it's not through advertising. I mean, today we have, powerful media, Instagram, social media, to be able to showcase our successes. But at that time we didn't. So I've never advertised. I've never sort of put billboards up saying, come and see TG Collins, we do all of these things. The business has been built on reputation, on recommendation, word of mouth. So that's something that we are extremely proud about. That still we give that, it's a case of, well, do you want to do online banking or would you rather go into the bank sometimes and actually physically see somebody that can help you without getting frustrated that everything is a sort of an online process? And that's what I was to this day, extremely proud about, that every one of us that works at TG Collins, me included, we do go that little extra mile to build that rapport with the client, actually, that it's not just, okay, take the money and run. We just don't do that. In fact, I'd rather you didn't give me the money. I'd rather you actually build that trust. And then if you come back even 6 months later, I know I've got you as a client. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like my solicitor, she did conveyancing work for me, but then when I needed a will, I went back to her. My daughter needed a will.
Exactly.
I said, right, you're going to go and see them. So it's then like it's the trust and the rapport.
It is the trust and the rapport because at the end of the day, I feel that in what we do, we're high street solicitors, so you can still walk in. If I'm eating my sandwich and you walk in because my staff are on their lunch break, I'm still going to answer the door and I'm still going to meet and greet you. Even if you don't have an appointment, that's the kind of attitude that I have. Now, that doesn't work for everybody because I worked I was a partner in a larger firm in between sort of setting up the business, and they didn't have that ethos. They didn't have that culture of lunch break is lunch break. If somebody knocks on the door, it's locked, and I just don't do that. I still operate a very open door policy. Now, that doesn't always work because we all have clients to see, or my staff are seeing clients all the time, so it doesn't always work. But we never ever turn people away without actually trying to help in some small way, even if it's, look, I'm going to take your number down, I'll get the solicitor to give you a telephone call, or if you give me 5 minutes, I'll be free. Please don't leave the office or a telephone call or something. That's what we try to do. So I'm really proud of that fact, actually, that we are still operating that very face-to-face, one-to-one.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really important, because normally when you're going to see a solicitor, there's something big going on. You're scared about something.
100%.
There's a big transaction, or it's life-changing.
It is.
So if you can get that sort of welcoming approach,
Yeah, definitely.
then that's it. You know,
I mean, I'm often,
sets you apart.
I'm often mistaken, for, the receptionist, for example. Okay, fine. That's fine. And I always say to my team, when eventually I retire, I'm coming back as the office junior, because I know exactly how, to meet and greet, and exactly how to say hello and greet people on the telephone. And I always tell, the staff when we're training is, please, whatever you say it with a smile.
Yeah.
Because honestly, that comes across even on the telephone.
Yeah, you can hear the
You
smile.
can hear the smile. So please, even if you're having a really bad day, play the glad game and put your brave face on and just, hi, it's TG Collins. We have to do that because, like you say, there are some dark days for people. And if you're ringing, the solicitors, and you're getting that negative vibe from even the people who are handling the telephone calls, it's not really a good place to be. So we're not perfect. Don't get me wrong. There's no business is perfect, right? We learn from our mistakes, and we do make mistakes. But for the most part, it's an open door policy that I operate anyway. And I feel that's what's held us in really good stead.
What are your notable achievements, or how do you define success?
Interesting one. So I'll start with the success part, actually. We're a training practice. So I have trained, the next generation, and still am training the next generation of solicitors. So for me, success is in watching other people actually growing and taking the profession forward. And it is a profession that they're joining. So I'm expecting that they maintain standards. So even though we're a smaller but growing high street practice, I want them to understand, all the staff, that they are joining a profession. It's a very old profession, the legal profession. And for that reason, let's maintain our standards. Whether it's in or outside the workplace, you've got to remember that. Right, ultimately we're representing the legal profession. So please, so for me, success is seeing the next generation. That's that part of the question.
Yeah,
right?
Notable achievements.
Okay, so notable achievements. So let's take it from the point of being in debt. Imagine over, 3 figures in debt. And then by this point, I'm married to Mindy, second husband. We're by ourselves in every way that you can imagine. We've been ostracized. Nobody's talking to us. My friends have ditched me, family friends, people that I've grown up with, because I've done the wrong thing. I've got divorced, not just got divorced, I've married. Again, I'm happy. Dare I say I'm happy. But no, you can't, this can't be possible, can it? Because you were happy before. Well, to the rest of the world, I was happy. I asked Mindy not to join the firm. I just said, look, I haven't got anybody to actually help me look at what's going on. And I'm not opening up to anybody saying, we're actually in a hell of a lot of trouble, the business. I don't know whether I can keep this going, but I know I want to. So it's at that point that he stepped in. Actually, it was a temporary measure just to look at the business and see if we could turn things around. And that was so many years ago. That was 2017. And it was from that point onwards, together, we have built this and pushed and taken that from minus figures to then 2020 opening a second office.
Wow, well done.
Opening a second office just as COVID hit and the doors closed. So March, we were due to open. So our business plan was March.
Yeah.
We didn't open until July. So Mindy and I and one other member of staff that we could, once we were allowed to kind of go back into the office,
Yeah.
We set everything up. and sort of streamline the 2 offices, obviously, with all the IT and things like that. We'd our practice runs of, how things would pan out with the 2 offices. And we've taken that, and moved forward. And then not only the second office, but then suddenly being recognised by, being a finalist in awards, and not just for myself, but for the team, actually being recognised as, gosh, you're only tiny firm, winning the She Awards for professional businesswoman. I mean,
wow.
I did not.
Was that last year?
Yes, it was. No, it was this year. So I went to the award last year. I was just sitting in the audience because I just wanted to see what it was about, and I just realised, wow, we've got so many women who are so successful and entrepreneurs, and I didn't know what to do really or say, because I was just looking around thinking, oh my goodness, like I didn't realise there were so many people who had similar stories. Actually, there were so many people in the room where we'd faced similar challenges and hardships to sort of go on. Yeah. So now in terms of achievement, definitely it's just seeing this little thought, now with support, being able to go forward, building that second office, seeing that thrive. And then this is sort of hot off the press actually, but on Friday, so I was a little anti opening a second office.
Okay.
Because Mindy wanted to grow the business, and I always, I'm happy. I'm
comfortable.
I'm comfortable. Haven't I done what I needed to do?
Yeah.
And he said, well, no, not really. We need to. I'm sure we can do better than this. I'm sure you can do better. I'm sure together we can do better and make this business grow. And I said, okay, you're going to make it very, very difficult for me because, I'm still a sole practitioner. There's only one of me. Mm. That means I have to split my time, right, between 2 offices. Mm-hmm. And I said, look, I will do that reluctantly on one condition. One day we're going to have the whole building, which is the business upstairs as well. And on Friday we signed the deal.
Well done.
So, we took over another business upstairs. It's a line. I'm not going to keep, we're not sort of calling it TG Collins. It's a separate entity, but it's very much aligned with legal services as well. It's a conveyancing practice.
Okay.
And we signed, it was ours on Friday. So
congratulations.
Yes, so that's...
So aren't you glad you listened to Mindy?
Yeah. I don't listen to anybody, right? Normally, but... I did listen, because I know that we've made it. We're a good team, and that's lovely to see.
Your face says it all. You've just lit up, and that's a massive achievement.
And and when people come to the office, and we're in a row in Chelmsford of solicitors and estate agents, and I know it won't stop at just the building upstairs. I know that.
I'm so excited for you.
So, when people say, okay, Thushara, what's next? I say, watch this space. You have to, I believe in slow, steady progress. I don't want to go from 0 to 100 necessarily in business anyway, but it's been slow and steady, but there's growth. And even if we've taken a little hit, sometimes you do that in business, right? You learn to cope with those failures. But you kind of take it on the chin, pick yourself back up again and keep going. So that's very exciting times.
Well, the failures teach you lessons, right?
Yeah. And one thing, my dad said to me, not just said to me, but when I was in school, so I went to Catholic school. We're Buddhist. My parents are Buddhist, so I'm Buddhist, right? And but I have been brought up in Catholic schools from 3 till 16. So I went to convent school. And at the age of 11, when I was going to secondary school, so to the convent school, you're gifted a Bible, which you take forward because obviously you're doing exams and you'll be using this Bible every day. And in that Bible, when you leave, it's a leaving gift at 11 before secondary school. Everybody writes in the Bible, your good luck messages and teachers and things. And my dad wrote a quote, actually. It's a Buddhist Lord Buddha's quote, which says, perseverance conquers sorrow. And that's true, isn't it? That perseverance does actually conquer sorrow. So pick yourself up, another day tomorrow, we'll face the world, put a smile on, just get on with it. And if you do have to break and cry from time to time, you do break and cry. What's the problem, isn't it, in showing your emotions or that you are actually human? We're not perfect. But these little steps to success, leading to success, leading to those achievements, and they have been little. And it's probably, people are probably thinking, oh, you've been doing this job for 14 years, did you not think about, these awards sooner? Well, no, not really, because we've been building the business. Whereas now is our time. Now is our time to grow. Like I say, to see the next generation of solicitors, a fantastic opportunity for, the next generation actually is come into a small firm, really work as a solicitor, work hard, have good work ethos, and you will be rewarded with success. But that's not the ethos these days, though, is it?
No. Everybody wants a quick way of doing everything.
Yeah. Everything is today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let's make $1 million today. That's no fun, come on.
No. But, not everyone wants to work with that hard grit that we grew up with.
No.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add before we get your details of how we contact you?
Yes. So, I was thinking about this actually. Gosh, if I have to sort of say anything to you at the end of an interview, what would it be? Well, you only get one life. It's very short. I don't really want to grow old gracefully. I don't want to grow old disgracefully either.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to be naughty and mischievous with audacity. And I want to have a very good story to tell.
I love that. See, that's what I always say to people, like, what will people say about you when you're not here anymore?
That's what I'd like to think people would say.
Like my kids, they think I'm mad. They think I'm a bit crazy. And they're like, Mum, why can't you be like other mums? I'm like, well, what does that look like? Like,
exactly.
I can't be. This is me. But yeah, I love that. Leave a story, leave a legacy.
Leave a story, leave a legacy. And, if you're obviously in terms of business, you're going to ask me that question, hopefully, is, how do people get hold of me? Well, I am a divorce solicitor. I'm a family solicitor. I say that with a smile on my face, but it does give me a lot of joy to help people because I understand whether you're male or female, you're going through a separation. Our business is, without a shadow of a doubt, TG Collins Sisters, here to help you. And it could be in any aspect, like you say. It could be, divorce, finances, children, whether you're moving house, or even that you need to think about your future with a will. Please come to us because we are here to help.
So many people don't make a will as well.
Oh gosh, that's a whole different
ballgame. That'll be another podcast, won't it? So what's your website?
www.tgcollins-solicitors.co.uk.
Perfect. And Instagram, TikTok?
Yes, we're not on TikTok. We are on Instagram, LinkedIn, and it's TG Collins Law.
Perfect. So if somebody was to message you on Instagram, for example, you'll respond there.
Yes,
as well.
We will. Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
I will. So yeah, message me please on Instagram if you want to get some advice. I do offer, some free advice, and I'm not the kind of sister that just sort of half an hour and let's, off we go. You know what? If you're sitting there for an hour and a half, then I'll listen to you for an hour and a half. So at least you've got it off your chest, and I can point you in the right direction. And sometimes it's not even about instructing me. It's that you actually have enough information that you can go on and you're well informed, put it like that. And sometimes that's all that people need.
Yeah.
So whether it can be on any aspect of the areas of law that we cover. So even wills, sometimes everybody should have a will. But sometimes it's just about getting the information so that you know what you need to put in place in a will. Right?
Yeah.
Same for property. There are many, many things that people, should be asking with regard to sort of buying and selling property or putting money investing money into a property, right, for children or with a partner. How can we protect ourselves? So ask the questions. It doesn't hurt, does it? It's free of charge initially. So if you instruct, you instruct. If you don't, you don't. But I can pretty much guarantee you'll come back.
I love that. I'm sure we would. And I think we're going to have you back when you grow and it's the next phase of your life. And
of course,
we'd love to hear about your story.
I'm hoping that the next phase of my life is being a grandmother and seeing my children.
You sound like me now. Like I've got this countdown to the age of 55 when I'm going to retire and I'm going to be a nunny and a duddy and I'm going to be like looking after children. People are like, what are you going to do in semi-retirement? I'm going to be sort of working and looking after kids. So it's like, yeah. So
I'm not sure that Mindy would like to see me just staying at home doing nothing. And I don't think I'm built of that stuff either. So
well, you can semi-retire.
Yeah, yes, I suppose so. I can't see just walking out of the business either, though. I think they have to drag me out, really.
Pulling your hair and kicking and screaming. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Yes, thank you.
Brilliant.